Where the legends play. Willie 1550 and 98.7. Hello there, I'm Kenny Graves, and here in the studio with me, very proud to have her. She won the 2022 Best International Female Artist Award from UK's Radio Wigwam. She is singer, songwriter, and rocker, Ronda Ray. Miss Ronda, how are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm so glad to be hanging out with you today.
She rolled up here on this beautiful steel horse, and she's got a great story. So let's jump in. First off, let's talk about your calling card, your Harley named Blondie.
Yeah, her full name is Sister Golden Hair Surprise, but Blondie for short.
Wasn't that an America song?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Great song.
Gotcha. How long you had her?
A couple years.
And, well, she just rolls everywhere you do, right?
She does.
Love that. Well, now before the music became the focal point of your life, you spent many years in the arena. So was rodeo your first love?
I've thought about that quite a bit. It's hard to say. I did start music first, but I grew up in an agriculture family. So it kind of ran parallel, I guess. And I think I played a lot of music. I had the agriculture bug. When I went to my first rodeo, I was like, this is what I want to do. I dumped everything for rodeo. I played a lot of sports too, but I just loved it. And the most of the music I did growing up was too structured. Like I didn't like the structure of it, and I loved the freedom of going off and doing my own thing.
I like that, a free spirit.
Yeah.
All right. Do you still find time for horses on occasion?
No, I don't. It's just not really part of my life right now. So Blondie fills that role really well.
And she doesn't need to be broke.
No, she's cheaper to feed, too.
I bet. Well, at what age did you start taking that serious interest in music to where it became, this is what I'm going to do with my life?
Well, I won't tell you what age, but I'll tell you it was about 12 years ago.
That's fair enough. So after everything with rodeo died down,
yeah,
you jumped in and said, okay, music is what I'm going to run after, and you've run fast. So do you remember where your very first paying music gig was at?
I do. It was at the Balcony Club in Dallas, and I was paid $25, and I thought, oh my goodness, some people will pay me to do this, and the hustle was on.
No, it was from there on, it just took off. Well, you recorded and released your debut EP, It's Party Time, during the pandemic in historic Muscle Shoals, Alabama. How was that experience?
What an amazing community and a great experience. I actually lived there that entire year. I got the money to record the album, and I knew I was going to record there, and the day we started was March 17th, and the shutdown started. So we were in a pretty big studio, and nobody knew what was going on then, and we were like, well, who's willing to spread out and get this done? And the musicians didn't know when they were going to work again, so the players were happy to make some money, and I was kind of like, are you kidding me? Because I'd been waiting a long time to record this, and I was like, there's no way that this is going to stop me from recording this album and putting it out this year. No way.
You don't seem like the type that will take no for an answer.
No, if somebody comes to me with impossibility, I'm just like, it drives me insane. I don't accept that. I always find a way.
All right. Well, tell me, what did you find that you learned in that first experience in the studio on that first project?
I was still really green. I mean, I had vague ideas of what I liked, but the thing about it was I was surrounded by really good people, amazing players, the best you could get in the world, a great producer, Grant Walden, he's a great engineer, and just people who cared about helping me make the record I could make at that time. I learned a lot from those guys. Just about the process, at least the process we went through then. Had Kelvin Holly on guitar. He played for Little Richard. Had Justin Holder on drums. And these guys are all like the integral part of the recording family there in Muscle Shoals, the Fame Gang. all of that. They're the modern version of it. Had Jamie McFarland on bass, and his dad, Will McFarland, played on a track called No Coincidence, and in the 70s, Will played guitar for Bonnie Raitt, and he only left her to make a change to go to Muscle Shoals and be a studio musician there. And so it just was working with the best of the best and the kindest people who really care about helping you make a good product, especially when you're showing up going, I don't know, I like Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty. Do something sort of like that, you know? Yeah, I like that. Or no, I don't like that. So.
But you decided to come into your own, and that happened as well. But you were hustling hard, and you managed to play a ton of shows during the pandemic. Your 2020 filled up, didn't it?
It did. I mean, I was like, where's the patio? And actually, I was really having a hard time not playing live. I mean, I'm glad for technology and Facebook Live. I was doing that stuff, but there's no replacement for the live music in-person experience. And Grant Walden and I started playing in it was a very nice alley, but an alley behind a pizza place there in Sheffield, which is right next to Muscle Shoals. We started playing out there just for free, for tips or whatever, just to play for people. And then I started going down to Gulf Shores, Alabama, up to Southern Illinois, Arkansas, just anywhere that was open, I was going. I have to do it.
Well, that's getting your seasoning as well, and that's an important part for an artist.
Yeah, and when you have your first album, you want to get out and try to
promote it,
yeah. Even if it was super grassroots. There was no great plan. It was just sort of figuring it out every day and doing the best I could with no budget and limited resources and just doing the best I can with what I have. It's like, I can't remember the exact phrase, but I heard someone say it once, but it's like this ingenuity that poor people have, or if you didn't grow up with a lot and you had to find a way to make what you had work. Like my grandpa, anytime we were at the farm, my dad would say, well, let me see how he's got this rigged up to start it. You know, whether it was a tractor or a truck or, third grade education, but could do just about anything with nothing. And I kind of had that mentality. It wasn't that I grew up in total lack and poverty, but I definitely had that mindset of, like, you could go to my mom and dad's, and my dad may have painted a Folgers coffee can for an outdoor flower planter, because why go buy a new one? I'll just paint this. And I definitely have that mentality.
Work with what you have.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, let's get to the songwriting side of it. When you're writing, do you prefer to schedule time to write, or do you like to wait for inspiration?
Well, the funny thing is when you're new and green and starting, you can you have more space for that inspiration and just whatever. The longer you do this, the business really takes over, and it gets a lot harder to find time to do that. Now, I'm capturing lyrics all the time, melodies. I get a lot of starts that I'll record on my phone or whatever. But it's important to me now to schedule time for music. Now, it may not be a scheduled time to write, but a scheduled time to just put everything away, and I'm going to pick up a guitar and just see what happens. I did have a co-write this year, and I'm really happy. He was really passionate about the project, and he kind of stayed after me. And it was one of those things where I gave him my word, and I could tell I had a little bit of like perfectionism and fear of failure going on as an artist, because I mostly write by myself, and I live with it for a while, and I hate it, and then I love it, and then I play it, and then it gets recorded, and it's this whole, but it's just mine. I'm not vulnerable with it.
Gotcha.
And so now I have this other person, and this is his dream to have this song done, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to let him down, and I'm I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's good to care about it, but I was really busy too. And I just had to sit down and start working on it. And it's like the great writers who teach and write about the art of it, when you sit down and show up for work, the muse tends to show up, is how that works. It's not as much the other way anymore. I guess it's a mix of both.
All right. Well, you released your first full-length album, Walking Away, last summer. So tell us about that project.
That project was a great evolution in my learning curve. It was had a lot more influence in the sound and the direction. I knew more about what I wanted. I had more specific ideas for the songs. I had the right team to execute it. We recorded it out in the desert near El Paso at Sonic Ranch, which was an amazing place to make an album, where we got to show up and you're just there and you don't have any distractions. They cook for you. It just was an amazing experience. And I'm real proud of the album as well. I think it's a much better picture of who I am and where I'm going, and I'm looking forward to the next record, to be honest, having taken that step forward with Walking Away.
Gotcha. Speaking of the next album, tell us anything about a timeline?
We'll record this year is my plan. I'm getting the songs together and starting to live with them. I need to set aside some time to finish some songs that I've got a good start on. It gets just harder and harder to be able to detach from everything and take a step back and see what needs to happen. But I've got probably enough songs now for the album where it was kind of cool. A month ago, I was playing in Spring Branch, Texas, and a few of the new songs, I was playing them, and I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I just fell in love with the new songs, and so we'll record that hopefully this fall.
Okay, something to look forward to,
Yeah.
especially if you like your rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Rhonda, you've come up and you've paid your dues kind of the old-fashioned way, it seems. But what advice do you give to young artists who have decided maybe they're going to devote to make everything to make music their career? What advice do you give them?
If you can do anything else, you should do that. If you can do anything besides music, you should. And if you can't, then you probably will survive. But you're running a business. You have to be an entrepreneur. You can't just be an artist. You have to, and my mind I'm wired that way naturally, so I automatically saw it as a business and this fun, creative art thing. My brain just kind of naturally works that way. But, you're running a business, and if you can do anything else, do that. And there's nothing wrong with it being a side hustle or, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to call it a hobby just because you work another job to support it.
The passion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can have two jobs, and there's nothing wrong. Just finding a way to really prioritizing and not getting stuck in the status quo of your local scene, because you're gonna be a product of your environment. So you always have to challenge yourself and think outside the box and think bigger, and not just be so concerned about fitting in with what everyone else is doing, but really you have to, it's kind of lonely, and you need to be prepared for the loneliness of it if you're really going to do it and not just be part of the party scene or different things. But you really have to prioritize and put everything in your life has to go into the things that are of most value to you. You can't have a bunch of waste You have to be really, really focused, and you have to be really, really consistent, and you have to keep your word, and you have to be really good at what you do, and that can vary from day to day. Like, my best today might not be my best tomorrow just because of, varying. The audience has a factor in it. How I feel that day. I've had a cold for a while, then I trying to shake, this cough or whatever. Like, there's just so many things that you may have had to put out a bunch of business fires right when you're walking on stage. There's so many varying factors into that we do to be able to step on stage for 45 minutes to 3 hours and do the fun part.
Gotcha.
Good luck.
And just remember, everything you do reflects back on your brand. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate that term, but on your reputation. So you have to be mindful of everything you do, especially in public or on social media.
That's right.
Because venues are checking that too. But thank you for the advice for these young folks. Now, you cover a lot of ground when you're touring, a lot. So do you have a favorite venue or event that you've played?
I love them all, and I know that probably sounds made up, but they're all different. Now, I'm grateful for every acoustic show that I play. It pays my bills. It keeps me on the road, but everything I do with my band is just magic. So, Six Springs Tavern up in Richardson is really great. I don't get the band out of Dallas-Fort Worth much. We do full band shows in the Muscle Shoals, Alabama area, and we'll be doing some of those in April. But everything with the band is magic. Six Springs is a magical venue. O'Reilly's up in Dallas is a great venue. I've gotten to play the Viper Room out in L.A. Yeah. Anywhere there's a responsive crowd. Like, you can be at a venue and it have the nicest stage and the best lights and somebody doing a great job running your sound and have the most apathetic crowd. That has nothing to do with you at all.
But it's deflating.
Or you can stand in the corner of a dive bar that doesn't even have a stage and have people just love what you're doing and get in it with you and be part of it with you, and it's just magical. So,
well, that's what every artist is looking for, and you keep chasing that every night.
That's it.
Yeah, something about that's very romantic.
Yeah.
All right. You were recently named the 2022 Best International Female Artist from UK's Radio Wigwam. So talk about that honor. I know you got to do it virtually and go and accept your award. Or did you fly over there?
No, I went.
Okay, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Radio Wigwam is an amazing radio station in the UK that supports independent original artists and bands, and they have created this global community. And I don't even know how I found out about them, but I just work all the time, and through networking and whatever, I just started submitting my new album to them, because I had a record deal last year that just completely fell through and broke my heart. This time last year, I told my family, I can't do this anymore, and I'm the person that doesn't have quit in their vocabulary. I outwork everyone. There is no plan B, and so for it to have broken my heart that bad, it was pretty serious. But I had this album I needed to promote, and I'd said, well, I can promote the album online, I can do what I can, but, it just is what it is. And I started submitting songs to different radio stations that I found that would accept submissions from independent artists. And in the meantime, my bass player, Eric Delegard, he has a studio in Denton called Real Time Audio. He's an amazing person. He started putting really good people around me, really good musicians around me, and kind of, if it wasn't for Eric, I don't know that I would still be going. So I really appreciate him. But things kind of started to slowly turn around. And fast forward to December, I was getting ready to go on tour for the holidays, and I was broken down on the side of the road between Austin and Temple, And it was a big breakdown. And I got a notification that I was nominated for this award. And I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. So while I'm broken down on the side of the road, I start thinking, well, I need to try to go over there. I mean, this is awesome, you know. And I had about a week to try to get the trip sponsored, and I did. Thank you so much to Omega Contractors in San Marcos, Texas, and Greg Berry and Mayberry Consulting and some other folks for helping me get to London. But what an amazing trip. I mean, the mentality and the culture for independent artists in Europe is so different than here. They have a real working support structure and a real community, and I was really blown away by the whole thing. So I went over there not knowing if I was going to win, and I did win. And funny thing, there were a couple other artists from Texas that were. One person won Best Songwriter, and another one was up for Best Hard Rock Band, and Hard Rock was the category before me, and the band didn't win, and I was like, oh, they're not going to give it to me just because I came so far. But then I won, so it was one of the best days of my life, for sure.
Well, certainly validation.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to get that, no matter what you're doing in your life. I mean, getting validation for your work is always good.
Yeah, especially after 1 year later of just being so broken by it all.
Yes.
And then you come back and you're just, I heard Tom Petty say once, they went on their first big tour, I think it was with the Heartbreakers, to Asia, and he said, well, next thing you know, we were back in L.A. taking out the trash, and that's kind of how it is. You know, you're back home playing your acoustic gig where nobody knows what just happened. But it made me realize how much the little things matter, the things that nobody sees that you do just to be excellent, and those things really do matter.
Hear, hear. All right, explain the awesome moniker you have. Talk about Texas-sized rock and roll show.
Well, I just got really frustrated. It's like, I think in our society in general, people still don't want to let girls play rock and roll. I mean, thank you, Joan Jett, that nobody's throwing beer bottles at me on stage. I mean, just for playing a guitar. We've come a long way, but people just don't want to let me have that space. And I can play a whole night of rock songs, and then and don't get me wrong, there's country music that I love to listen to. I love George Strait. I love Chris Ledoux. I love tons of stuff from the 80s and 90s. I love Dolly Parton. I have covered my own version of Jolene. There's music that I love. I just don't like to play it. And like Chris Ledoux said, even cowboys love a little bit of rock and roll. Hardly any rodeo cowboy I grew up with, rodeoing with, listen to country music predominantly. But what was the question?
Talk just the whole moniker of
Texas-sized rock and roll. So nobody knew where to put me, because in Dallas it's like you got to be either metal or the blues or country. It's like there's no space for, but yet everybody loves the classic bands
or cover bands.
And I'm like, why is this so hard for people to accept? So I was like, I'm just going to make up my own genre, Texas-sized rock and roll. And then I started to define, well, what does that mean? Well, it's because some people in my tribe liked it and some people didn't like that. And I'm like, well, it's big. It's big energy. It's big sound. It's really big love, and we show up. And I realized I was nailing it when somebody came up to me after a show, a full band show, and said, "Man, that's a big sound." And I was like, yes,
exactly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, there's a lot of things in places I go, especially in Texas, where I go and there's places in the hill country, places like Terlingua, where I go and I just sit there and I'm like, this is everything that's right with the world. And that's how I want this music to be, and how I want an experience at one of my live shows, especially with the band, to feel to people. I want people to just come in and be like, this is everything that's right with the world.
An experience.
Yeah.
We'll call it Texas-sized rock and roll experience.
I like it.
How's that? Well, introduce us to your band members. Who do you have right now with you when you're playing with full band?
My players rotate a little bit. It's a little different when you're a solo artist and you hire a band. But I do have my core group that tries to be with me when at all possible. Occasionally for scheduling, I have, I don't even like to call them substitutes because I feel like they're all A-list players and they're all essential parts of the team. But I have Eric Delegard on bass, Ryan Martin on the drums, Greg Brayfield on keys and background vocals, and I say of Greg Brayfield is to my band what Hank Hill is to Strickland Propane.
It's propane, Bobby.
He is indispensable, and he's like Hank Hill and MacGyver in one. And then guitar, I have Caleb Young. I use Randy Gray will cover guitar or bass. He has a recording studio in Fort Worth as well. I don't want to leave anyone out. John Pierce will fill in on bass. He's a great player. So we have a few that get rotated in, but yeah, they're all such pros. They help me. They are selfless. There has to be an element of selflessness. People talk about musicians' egos, and we all have like an ego, or we wouldn't want to run our own business, but there has to be a selflessness there where, yeah, you're showing up to do the best job that you can, but you're there for the whole thing and to help everybody else be better. And that's what each one of these musicians brings to the table.
Well, you got to have the pros around you to have that big sound.
You do.
Exactly.
You do.
Now, I know, I got to tell you this, not everybody has a logo that really just catches my eye. Your logo is awesome. Thank you for bringing me the bumper sticker and koozie, too. But you got a ton of merch, including the T-shirt tank you're wearing right now. Tell me what fans can get on the website.
Yeah, you just go to rondaraymusic.com and click store, and there's more available on the online store than there is when I'm carrying it on the road.
A few pages worth.
Yeah.
I like the coffee mug, so that may be what I'm asking for my birthday from some friends of mine. So, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. A ton of good merch. And you have a big show coming up tonight. You're going to be in Bryan at the 101, and you'll be bringing the big energy, big sound, big love. What can fans expect at a Ronda Ray show?
Just that. We're going to have a good time. Like my first album title says, it's party time. I'm there to make you glad you got out of the house, get a reprieve from all the stuff in your day-to-day, all the worries. We just put them aside for an hour, and we have a good time, and we kind of hit the reset button. We get some joy, get our joy tank filled, and head back into life better.
And music is the universal language. It brings people together. Anything else you want to touch on, Rhonda, that maybe I didn't catch?
I don't think so. You did a really good job.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as high praise. And, hey, you sure break a leg tonight at the 101 in Bryan.
Looking forward to it. Everybody come out. Let's have a good time.
Give them the website one more time.
RondaRayMusic.com, and it's RONDA Music. RONDARAY Music.com. No H in Ronda.
Oh, that easy way to put that. Appreciate you coming in, taking the ride over. I'm going to go out and look at this beautiful motorcycle right now. But for Ronda Ray, I'm Kenny Graves on Willie 1550 and 98.7.